Mike, it's finally time after nearly 5 months since training camp and first preseason games opened. We have one game left in the 2025 NFL season now that we're into February of 2026. Super Bowl 60 is on Sunday. We're taping this on Thursday night. The Seahawks are a 4.5 point favorite over the Patriots, looking to win their second Lombardi trophy, looking to more so get revenge on New England for the infamous Marshawn Lynch game. And it's one that I'm actually rather invested in for the first time in a few years. I want to say the last time I've actually wanted to watch a Super Bowl seriously was Rams and the Bengals 5 years ago.
Yeah, hard to believe that was 5 years ago already. That game was that long ago. But yeah, I'm pretty invested too. You see, I got my Buckeye shirt on tonight, so we got some Buckeye ties in this game. Of course, Travion Henderson and Mike Vrabel on one side, JSN on the other. But more importantly, I'm interested to see the redemption arc of Sam Darnold really reach its pinnacle here. You know, a guy who came out of USC, I was not high on Sam Darnold when he came out of college. You know, his final game was against the Buckeyes. He looked terrible against a defense that had 4 or 5 guys on it that were going to play in the NFL. And then he goes to the Jets, which is would you say a dumpster fire akin to the Browns or bigger than the Browns?
I would say bigger than the Browns just because the Jets are more expected to compete with the money that they throw and the market that they're in. And the Browns never really recovered from, being granted an expansion franchise literally just about 2.5 years after the old one vacated and had a stadium built to where they've got to tear it down within, in less than 30 years because it's fallen
Yeah.
apart.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I will say this, though. The interesting part of this game is these are two teams that one is coming off a 3-14 season to go 14-3. The other one was not expected to do much, especially with the departing of the guy who really remade his career out there in Geno Smith. You brought in Sam Darnold after a really good year with Minnesota. I mean, it's a very intriguing game to me. I think for the first time in a long time, I may watch a good chunk of this game because I haven't really watched. The last few years I've been kind of off on the NFL, but this one's going to be interesting. All jokes aside, I'm interested to see Bad Bunny, of course, with my ties to the island. But Jim, I honestly think this could be the start of two really good careers because Drake May, of course, is in his second year and he's in a Super Bowl. And now Sam Darnold is in his first year of his redemption arc and he's in a Super Bowl.
And keep in mind that, Darnold is part of that class. Just Baker just turned 30. Darnold's 29 or 30 himself. He's still got some years left. We thought it was going to be there last year with Minnesota, and then they just run out of gas. But then he goes to Seattle and he does the exact same thing, and he gets them to the best record in football, tied with Denver. But I think actually, if you look at strength of schedule and other parameters and everything, Seattle was on paper the better team. If the Seattle and Denver would have met and it wouldn't have been on a neutral site, if it would have been like any other sport, it would have been played in Seattle. So uh, it's definitely interesting to see with all the storylines that we have here. Again, I mentioned Seattle being a 4.5 point favorite. The over under on the game 45 and a half, which I could definitely see getting reached. But Mike, we're not gonna get into predictions until the end of the segment here. Um, I don't see how that's going to be a 24-20 game or a 26-20, 26-21 game. I got a feeling this one could actually get out of hand a little bit.
It could. It absolutely could. But you know what? Don't I, Jim, I think this is going to be one of those ones where I'll be shocked if it does. I wouldn't be shocked if it does, but I also wouldn't be shocked if it doesn't. The one thing Seattle's going for him is Mike McDonald is a great head coach, and he has got a great defense at his disposal and an offense that, quite honestly, knows how to win this time of year. They run the football really well. They have that one wide receiver who seems to be uncoverable with the numbers he's putting up. But at the same time, Jim, that's Mike Vrabel on the other side of the field. That is a
And all
guy who,
good.
yeah, who has done it at a high level. Now, we got to see how healthy Travion Henderson is. We got to see how healthy Stevenson is, and apparently, we got to see how healthy Drake May is
Well,
because
I'm
there's
glad
stuff
that you
coming out
brought
about his shoulder.
I'm glad that you brought that up because I looked at the injury report just before we started recording. The only major injuries to come out of practice today, which is going to be one of the last full practices before Sunday, because we'll have a couple of walkthroughs. We know about the widely publicized injury to Seattle rookie star safety Nick Emenwari. His foot was injured. He was limping into the stadium. He did not practice today, but they've already said he's good to go for Sunday. Everybody else is basically ready to go. So Henderson's going to be ready to go. Sam Darnold with the obliques going to be ready to go. And then for New England, Harold linebacker Harold Landry did not practice today. Everyone else is good to go. And then I still haven't heard confirmation as to whether Landry's going to be good to go. If he is now, if it's going to be a game time decision type thing, if they're actually going to wait until tomorrow or the final walkthrough on Saturday. But those are the only major injuries. I've seen limited practices. Everybody else is basically listed as either full participation or probable.
Yeah, and you're not going to see much with the injury reports this week. I think they're going to try and play that as close to the vest as they can. We'll see how limited Henderson is. His was an ankle. There's stuff coming out that May had an issue with his shoulder. I'm sure it was just from the cold and him not wearing sleeves or anything
Yeah.
in Denver. But I will say this, we have to keep an eye on that because if you're looking at these two teams, the healthier of the two is the Seattle Seahawks. Their running back room is healthy. Their offensive line, which has been unsung this year and been great, is healthy. So we'll see how this plays out. But if Jim, when we do predictions, I think we know which way both of us are leaning, but I think we'll put our own spin on why we're leaning that way. So I want to ask you the first out of the box question. Normally, when we do our Super Bowl preview, it's live. We're doing stupid shit, and we do the prop bets. But I want to ask you this question here. First thing to go: New England's ability to protect Drake May, or Seattle's ability to get JSN open? What's the first thing that's going to fall off the table?
Seattle's ability to get JSN open, but it's also because of the fact that they're going to be zoning in on him, kind of like what the Rams did. The last time we had a number one key lockdown type receiver where the entire team game planned around the guy was Cooper Cup after Odell Beckham went out with his injury because Kansas City didn't have that game breaker. Xavier Worthy was good, but they didn't plan the whole offense around him because it was trying to shadow him to limit Patrick Mahomes. AJ Brown was not the facilitator with Seattle their last couple of years. We saw with San Francisco that they would target in on Ayuk, but you also still had to contest with Christian McCaffrey. But this is basically an offense that Seattle's got some very good players and they've got some big names, but JSN is by far and away the biggest one of them all. That you don't go out and catch 119 passes in the regular season and then expect, Vrabel in that defense to target in on them. And then the other aspect is that you have to figure that, if you turn to the other side of the coin, with Seattle's defense, with Legion of Boom 2.0, so to speak, going up against not only Vrabel's coach team, but breaking news just before we went on the air, it was announced that Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, was named the NFL's assistant coach of the year at tonight's NFL honors, where also Miles Garrett won the unanimous defensive player of the year award as well. As they're still rolling out some of the other names. So I think Drake May's all up for MVP. I don't think Seattle's really got anybody massively in the mix except for Mike McDonald for coach of the year. Um, but I think Seattle's going to be able to get their shots at May without question, but May's got the ability, unlike when Brady was there, to be able to move and actually kind of create some space if necessary and also be able to take off. Whereas Darnold's going to have to actually look to checkdowns and something he's not exactly been comfortable with the last few years, even having guys like, Jordan Addison and Justin Thielen up in Minnesota the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think Darnold's gonna have to use his legs a little bit Sunday night, which he's never really done. I mean, if you look at his even his college years or his early years with the Jets, he never really had to do that. Um, if I had to guess on that one, I think New England's ability to protect Drake May is what's going to break down first. And it's not because their offensive line isn't good. It's an actually pretty decent offensive line. My thing is, they are going to make him beat them with his legs. They're going to make him do what you don't want Lamar to do. And because he's not the brightest crayon in the box, he doesn't know how to slide, Jim. He's gonna take some shots. And if they can beat him down and play the run well, that's not the quarterback run, I don't see how Seattle loses this game.
Yeah, I completely agree because when you look at it, the Seahawks were 8th in the league this year with 62 and a half sacks. I'm sorry, with 47 sacks, which was, well off the pace where Denver basically, I want to say Denver came very close to or broke the NFL record with 68. Whereas,
Jesus.
New England didn't get a whole lot of pressure on the quarterback at all. New England was 8th worst with only 35 sacks all season. But we all know that sacks aren't the biggest name in the drawer because take a guess who was at the bottom of the league? San Francisco, and they
The
only had
Browns?
20.
Really?
Yeah.
Um, you mean to tell me that a team in the Super Bowl only had 12 more sacks as a team than Miles Garrett did as an individual player?
Yeah. The Browns
My
finished
God, how dog shit are the fucking Browns.
Yeah, but keep in mind also Miles Garrett had 23 sacks. The team had 53 as a team, third best in the NFL. So you take him off, they still got 30 and they're still
30.
sitting right in the middle of the pack in the NFL.
No, I understand that. But my God, if they just had a fucking offense for 5 minutes.
So game will be
Anyway,
6:30 on Sunday night on Peacock. Green Day will be part of the kickoff show, which a lot of people are going to be tuning in for. I cannot remember who's doing the national anthem. We know Bad Bunny will be at halftime. We already have seen the the god awful reviews of the Turning Point USA, Nazi Fest, halftime show going over on other networks and everything. That what'll happen faster? People will turn that off, or Erica Kirk does another, you know, uh, money grab appearance.
I heard you changing your name to Couch.
Yeah, before we go completely off the rails here with that, um, and there won't be a whole of co
Pivot.
and there's not going to be there were earlier reports that said that there was gonna be a heavy ice presence there. It's not going to happen now just because there's not gonna be a whole lot of people attending the game from the administration like there were in past years, because, Donnie is not going to travel. I'll talk about that here in a second. Um, uh, Couch Boy is over in Italy. He was actually filmed earlier today, taking in the United States women's hockey game before the official opening of the Olympics are tomorrow in Milan. Um, he was in the stands with his kids, and I'm trying to think, okay, where's your wife at this point? Because I didn't see her once from the several times they put her on camera. But it's also the fact that you have to know that you got a team from Boston and a team from Seattle, two of the most democratic major cities in America, playing in Palo Alto, just outside of San Francisco, and you're expecting this administration to go down there and get any kind of reception to that doesn't make January 6th look like a kumbaya.
No. Although the president matches the bridge. Thank you. I will take that.
So we know the storylines with the quarterbacks. We know about the coaches with the battle of the mics here. We know McDaniels won the defense the assistant coach of the year. We know about the running game. We know the very good wide receiving core for Seattle. We know that Drake May led the league in passing this year, although New England had one of the poorer schedules to be able to have him, sack up on there. But you have to beat the teams in front of you. New England's road was a lot easier, let's be honest, because they ended up playing, a Houston team that overachieved and CJ Stroud became CJ Stroud in the playoffs, not the regular season. And then they actually, get handed, you know, a a a Denver squad that is missing who should have been the NFL MVP had he actually not broke his foot, or it would have been him or Stafford at this point this year. So, Michael, while we got a couple of moments left, prediction time. What are you looking for in this game? Like, I'm not going to hold you to a prop bet, but give me a stat line you think is a lot more feasible, and then give me your prediction in the game.
The stat line that would flip this game on its ear is if New England can run for 125 yards. If Henderson and Stevenson can run for 125 to 130 yards, that means they're playing keep away. And if that happens, we're looking more at a first ever Rams Patriots Super Bowl than we are looking at a shootout like we think it's going to be. Do I think they'll be able to do that? I don't. As much as I love Travion Henderson, I do. I think Seattle wins this game and they win by 10 points. I'm going to say Seattle 27, New England 17, hammer the under.
Okay, I like that. Um, I think Sam Darnold finally has the redemption arc come full circle. I think Sam Darnold throws for over 300 in this game. I think I
Really?
think I think Jackson Smith and Jigba goes for at least 100 and scores. Um, I have New England. I have New England getting their comeuppance here in the rematch, um, or taking their comeuppance, I should say. I have Seattle in this one, 33-16.
If I can add one more thing to what we were saying, Seattle now has a coach that's going to run the ball on the 1 yard line, so I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's gonna last question here. Whether you're watching or not, what's your go-to? I'm taking this straight off of Tony Rizzo's show from Wednesday, from Survey Wednesday. What's your go-to food for Sunday if you were going to be watching or if you were going to a party? What's gotta be there for you?
Shit.
Are we talking
Oh,
nachos? Are we talking wings? Are we talking pizza? Are we talking buffalo chicken dip?
okay. So here's what two things. I need the chili dip my wife makes with the bottom layer being cream cheese, a layer of chili, and then the cheese on the top. That's delicious. But the second thing is something I haven't had in years because they don't do it gluten free, but they do either buffalo style or mild style, the boneless wings. I'm not a big wing guy, but and boneless wings are just man's way of saying chicky tenders. So those that's what I'm looking for there. That and honestly, this time of year with the holdover from a few months ago, Christmas ale.
Mike will actually be. We don't have a YZ number of the week, but you'll get the soundbite. Uh, Wrong one.
Ah,
For me, it's typically pizza, but everyone and their mother's going to be ordering pizza. So unless you like go to your local store and get like a deli style pizza, for like $6 or $7, look forward to paying, $20. Like around here, Papa John's was selling a large for $20 with one topping in advance for Sunday because of the money that they're going to be making. I actually, for the first time, I want to say in about 4 years, I'm actually because I typically don't go out for the Super Bowl because I got to be at work the next day, and I don't want to be out with the nut cases. But I'm gonna fire up the slow cooker and I'm gonna try and do some barbecue wings. So I figure, I talked to you when I was at the store last night. I bought a 3 pound bag of frozen wings for $10. I bought a bottle of open pit to glaze them with, and I bought 2
Ooh.
liters of Dr. Pepper. You basically put a dry rub on the wings, frozen. You throw them in the slow cooker. You dump about anywhere between 12 to 20 ounces of Dr. Pepper in there as your base, as your brine. Put them on low for 8 hours, and then you pop them in the oven, glazed with sauce for 10 minutes afterwards.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I will say this in closing, if I may. $20 for a Papa John's pizza with one topping. Do better, Shaq.
It cost me $13 to get a 3 pound thing of wings. If I were to go to Wingstop and get the exact same thing down the street, they're already starting to take pre-orders, and it's going to be like $38. So that's the kind of
Bite
math
it.
Blue Note likes.
Yes, sir.
Michael, it happens once every 4 years in terms of the Olympiad. We all know it happens every 2 years realistically with the way that they alternate. But the NHL is finishing up their quote unquote first half of the season tonight, even though the teams are now playing it going to be by the time they come back from the Olympic break, they're only going to have about 25 to 27 games left to go. So we saw the women have their first game earlier today over in Milan, a 5-1 win over Czechia, where they outshot them. At one point in the second period, they had outshot the Czechs 28-4 and were up 3-0 in the game at that
Jesus.
point. Um, but the men, the NHL is pausing the season tonight. They will take their 3-week break. There will be over 120 players in the tournament. Many of them coming from the NHL. Some will actually be coming from the KHL or the European Super Leagues. But Team USA certainly favored to medal. Team Canada certainly favored to medal. Uh, but let's look at the NHL as they hit the pause button for the next few weeks. Michael, the Colorado Avalanche look human.
Makes sense. I mean, they spent the last few years not being human. Last year, weren't they off to some crazy start last year too?
Yeah, but the Avs look human. The Minnesota Wild and the Tampa Bay Lightning right now do not. The Lightning just had an 11-game win streak snapped, and then they rattled off, I want to say, 4 out of their last 5 as well. The Wild have won 5 in a row, and as we actually open play tonight, even though a couple of games have gone final, the Minnesota Wild, after that big trade earlier this season, are just 5 points behind the Avs for the top spot in the entire NHL. And oh yeah, here come the Dallas Stars, winners of 4 in a row, and they're just 1 point behind Minnesota at 77. So they're only 5 points behind they're only 6 points behind the Avs right now.
I know the Eastern Conference has won the last few cups. I think Vegas was the last team to win from the West, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Why does the West seem better positioned to be more fun to watch over the next few weeks after the Olympic break is over?
Right, because you take into account Seattle playing well, Los Angeles, that we'll talk about here in a moment, position themselves to be able to make a run once everybody comes back with a massive trade that they pulled off within the last 48 hours. But the Avs, uh, they got Gabriel Landeskog back. They have the best defenseman in the world in Kale McCarr, although there's a lot of people thinking Rasmus Dahlin in Buffalo is going to give him a run for his money, especially if the Sabres continue this push to the playoffs this year. But you put um, Kaprizov, and why is it that they swung that huge trade? And I cannot think of who they landed in Minnesota here. We always know that Dallas is certainly loaded, um, but you can never really count out Vegas with the way that they always try to stack things up. With Minnesota, you add in Joel Eriksson Ek. You got it was Quinn Hughes that comes on board. Vladimir Tarasenko certainly looking to kind of resurrect his career as he's now on the 1 year hired gun route that a lot of players take towards the back end. Matt Zuccarello playing well for them. But they're also getting really, really good goaltending. The Wild are right now with Philip Gustafson having 20 wins. Jesper Wallstedt's got 14. The Wild are 34, 14, and 10 right now with a goals allowed under 2.9 and a save percentage of 910. And just keep rolling. But again, we cannot count, we cannot pencil the winner of the West in for the Stanley Cup. More specifically, we cannot put the winner of that Central Division there because have to take into account what's going on with Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was, you know, about 2 months ago, they were kind of sitting on the outside looking in. And oh, yeah, they've shot themselves, winning four in a row. They're 8-1-1 in their last 10. They lead the Atlantic Division by 4 points over Montreal and Detroit. And they're only 2 points behind Carolina for the top spot in the East. And oh, yeah, they're only 7 points back of Colorado for the best record in the league as well.
Yeah, the stretch run after the Olympics is going to be fun in the NHL. And I said what I said before. It just seems like there's more teams that you could look at it in the West going, yeah, they get hot, they're coming out. Well, if they get hot, they can stop this one who's hot and they could come out. I don't see that in the East. The two-time defending champs are beating the snot, basically. Um, Although the East has the intriguing story. I would love to see Buffalo get back on the right side of this thing here. Not just for your sake either.
We would love to see Detroit, even though we hate Detroit. Detroit right now is sitting in a playoff spot. They're sitting in, third in that division. In the NHL, there's starting to be a lot of scuttlebutt going forward, and there's a lot of players like Sidney Crosby that are starting to actually take the aspect that they need to go back to a 1 versus 8 format and reward the 8 best teams as opposed to only the top three, where you may actually have a wild card team that you might get five in from one division and only three in from another with the way that it's staggered just because of how the wild card sets up, which I completely agree with Crosby here in this aspect. But right now, Detroit and Buffalo both sitting in a playoff spot. Boston, after finishing with one of the worst records in the league last year, has got the second wild card spot. And oh yeah, there's a pulse of life in Columbus, and it's getting very, very strong as well because the Jackets 2 months, or I should say, I want to say 6 weeks ago, were dead last in the Eastern Conference. The Jackets have won 7 in a row, and they are now sitting 4 points out of the last playoff spot in the East as we break.
That's awesome. See, it seems to me like the teams you don't expect to do much in the East are starting to do a bunch more. And the West has their 4 or 5 top end guys that seem to do it year in and year out. I'm interested to see if the Jackets can keep it up. That would be fun. That would absolutely be fun. To get the Jackets and the Sabres in the playoffs this year, that would be amazing.
We also see the expansion, Utah Mammoth, is technically in their second year. They're sitting in a playoff spot right now. They're actually sitting in the second wild card. They're not going to get above Dallas because they're sitting 13 points behind because of how much the cream has risen to the top in that central division, which is where the 1 versus 8 format would work out a hell of a lot better because it would actually put Utah, I want to say they would be the 6th seed instead of right now the 7 in the wild card, and they would have to go to Colorado anyway. We've got Nashville coming on well. San Jose, for kind of sitting in those top three, has fallen back a little bit. They're actually sitting 5 points out of the last playoff spot. Winnipeg, after that disastrous start, has have kind of gotten themselves. They're 11 points out, but Connor Hellebuck has gotten himself healthy. They've started to remember who they were from last year. They're climbing a little bit. St. Louis and Vancouver, you can basically pencil them as outs. Calgary still has an outside shot. Chicago needs a little bit of work. Um, but the wild card here in the West right now are the Los Angeles Kings. And for anyone who missed it, back on Monday, late Monday, or even it might have been very early Tuesday, um, the NHL didn't want to feel left out because their trade deadline is going to be right after the Olympic break, whereas the NBA's trade deadline was at 3 p.m. Eastern time today. The New York Rangers traded star Artemi Panarin to the Los Angeles Kings in exchange for forward Liam Greentree, a conditional 2026 third round pick, a conditional 2028 fourth round pick, and then Panarin signed a 2-year, $22 million extension with the Kings yesterday afternoon.
Listen, the Kings want to go for this thing. Uh, the Cup's never been to LA, right?
They've got 2012 and 2014. 2012 over
Oh,
the
that's right.
Rangers,
When they beat the
2014 over Tampa.
That's right, when they beat the Rangers. Okay. Well, it's been almost 15 years since that first one. They won another one, and Panarin is so good. He's so good. He's going to make an immediate impact at that with that team, and give them a little boot in the rear end that they need to get going.
I mean, especially with you look at the nostalgia now, you've got Dustin Brown, who might only have a year or two left. Anze Kopitar is retiring at the end of the year. You've got um uh uh Quentin Byfield looking to kind of come on and make his own now going into I want to say year four. So there's a transition period going on here with with the Kings. You add in Matt Rempe, you know, always looking to play well for them. It's definitely something where the Kings could actually make a playoff push, and especially in that Pacific Division. Right now the Kings are sitting 3 points out of the last wild card spot, but the fact of how much better the Central is, the Pacific Division leaders are the Vegas Golden Knights at 66, and they're 11 points behind Dallas in if you were to rank the entire conference. So that actually puts the Kings only 6 points out of the top spot in that division. So they could go very, very quickly from out of the playoffs to leading a division with a quick run coming out of the Olympic break.
Yeah, this sprint to the end is going to be nice to see. Speed skating is happening in next week in Milan, and when we get back, it's going to be happening in an NHL arena close to you.
Very, very much so. It's certainly entertaining. It's just going to be very weird not having any PHL or NHL for the next 2 weeks. And as we talked about it earlier, we've already got a little bit of I don't want to say controversy, but basically things are already kind of going downhill a little bit in ice hockey. Is that we talked about the United States beating the Czechs 5-1. The United States' next game is supposed to be Saturday against Finland for the women. They don't know if that game's going to be played because Finland was supposed to open against Team Canada tonight, right after the United States Czechia game. But the the norovirus, ripped
Oh
through
no.
the Finnish squad to where I want to say, like 13 players had it and had to be quarantined, and they don't know if they're going to be able to play that game. So they had to postpone that game against Canada to the 12th, whereas the medal round would start the 13th. So here could be Team Canada for the women having to play that game because they're not going to cancel it. And then if they get into the medal round, they'd have to play the 13th with the gold medal game possibly on the 14th or 15th. So they might have to play a span of 3 games in 4 days.
I doubt they're going to make them play that game. If it's not going to matter in who's getting in the medal round, I don't think they'll play it. It's not something you can really game plan for, though. So, it's each Olympics goes through this, whether it's summer or winter. I'm just surprised it's happening now.
Well, they did make a change with these Olympics. That's a little weird because they sent 10 teams instead of typically 12 that go. And with the women's pool, what they have is the 10 teams that are there, Group A automatically went through to the knockout round. And then the 5 teams in Group B are kind of a second tier, and they're going to be the ones that are going to fill those last 3 spots. So the United
Okay.
States doesn't even have to play another game, and they're already in the knockout round. Canada, I want to say it's Canada, the Swedes, maybe Finland. I can't remember how it all shakes out. I know Italy got a big win today in their opening win on home ice. Japan's part of that. Um, but I want to say the men's it might be a little bit more traditional because of you look at the powers that are typically there. You got Sweden, you've got the Czechs, you've got I mean the Russians are not there and they won't be until this thing is resolved over in Ukraine. You've got the Americans, you've got the Canadians, uh, you know, um I, the German team is always going to be up there. Um but it's good to actually see the games already starting. I mean, it's gonna be great to actually wake up tomorrow morning and they're probably gonna be a game on, even though the we had 2 or 3 games today, and we also had first round or qualifying for curling, and the official opening ceremonies aren't until 2 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow.
Yeah, because I think the Summer Olympics start stuff early too.
Yeah.
And then isn't there wasn't there a year when the Summer Olympics had games that were going on for gold medals after the closing ceremonies?
Yeah, and I don't think it was the 2021 rescheduled Rona games.
No, I don't think it was then, it was before that.
Was that wasn't that the Brazil games because of
I think
weather
so.
issues?
I
Or
think
or
so.
correct me if I'm wrong, and I'd have to go back and research that. It might have been because it wasn't that because of they had the issue with the infections that were coming out of the pool?
Yeah, not the pool, the where they did the canoeing.
Okay, okay, that makes sense now, but
The only
it's
infection that came out of the pool in Brazil was Ryan Lochte.
I knew you were going there, so we're joined right now by longtime friend of show, Patrick McGuire, the author of the Cleveland Sports Report. We have not had Patrick on in quite some time, but with everything that happened with the Cleveland Cavaliers this weekend, we had to get him on. At the time we're recording this, it is Friday night. Mike is actually out of town. He did send me some questions to be able to ask of Patrick, but Patrick, long time, no time. How you doing, my friend?
Very good, man. I'm excited to talk about this because, I mean, man, like just last year just seems like so long ago now. Uh, I mean, they've had, like they started out rough and then they started to kind of like nudge in the right direction and then they went down again. They had the belt the ass, if you will, against OKC, like that was really depressing. I mean, just really felt like, wow, how did we get here? Like, how are we this far behind now? It seems like on talent and title aspirations. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to talk about it because this was a lot. I did not see these coming. I'm not gonna claim I did, and I've been an ardent defender of Garland for a long time and did not see this coming.
So to recap, the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are currently sitting at fifth in the Eastern Conference, made 3 deals within a 48-hour span. The ball got rolling when they traded DeAndre Hunter, who was just acquired late last season at the deadline, to Sacramento in a 3-team deal. The Cavs acquired Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis from Sacramento. Sacramento gets Hunter, and then Chicago, the third team in that deal, gets Dario Saric and two future second round picks from the Kings. And Schroeder and Ellis played last night. I want to say Schroeder had 10 points in
Hmm.
like 12, 15 minutes. Ellis got a bucket, but they're now going to be in the rotation. So, Patrick, your thoughts on this deal?
Well, with Hunter, I mean, that just seemed like the perfect deal last year. and he played really well down the stretch. He fit right in, and it looked really good at the time. They had needed a big wing for a long time, and they finally got that piece. And I don't know what happened to him this year. I really don't know. There were some rumors that he was really unhappy here, and I don't know why he would be, but um, maybe I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with them letting Ty Jerome walk. I don't know. Like, but he didn't seem with it. But at the same time, Atlanta fans had kind of warned us about this, like that he is a frustrating player because he has all of the tools and he's just not a smart player, honestly. He's lazy. He ball watches. He needs the ball in his hands a lot to be effective. And this year, I mean, it was just what kills me is like the um, how he fell off shooting because I think his 3-point percentage dropped like 12%, or something from last year.
somewhere in there.
Yeah, and I don't know, it just wasn't working. And my feeling about it was, well, they should probably just hang in there with them. I mean, I going into the deadline, I didn't expect to see anything major. I thought probably, we'll see Lonzo get dumped. But I didn't see them moving off Hunter, mainly because I didn't really see who would take him. And there was an initial, I don't know if you heard it, but like an initial rumor to the Lakers. And it was
Yes,
supposed to be for like Rui Hashimura, I think, and Dalton Connect.
correct. Yeah,
And
that's what I was hearing too.
yeah, and I thought that would have been a good trade, honestly. I was like, Rui it would have fit perfectly, like right in Hunter's place where Hunter isn't a good off the ball player. Rui's a lot better. I mean, he's a really accurate 3-point shooter. I liked that deal a lot, but the Kings deal, I think it was only there because the Kings are the Kings. I don't know, like they're one of the most just embarrassing front offices in the NBA, and we're lucky that they were there to give us two valuable pieces. What are they going to do with DeAndre Hunter? Hunter doesn't move the needle for them in any direction
It,
except maybe he helps, but he's getting paid a fortune and he's a volume shooter. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me why they would give Keon Ellis up for that because Keon Ellis seemed to be in very high demand.
Yeah, it's I there's a lot of people that are, on Cleveland Sports Talk Radio. Everyone's over the moon about getting Dennis Schroeder. Apparently, it was something that they were even targeting last year at the deadline
Mm-hmm.
and couldn't get. But you also figure that Cleveland's always kind of had an eye and been trying to work out deals with Sacramento for years, going back to when Buddy Hield
Mm-hmm.
was being shopped around before he eventually landed in Washington.
Yeah.
Uh, but I there you are correct. There is a part of me from watching them this year that Hunter just it seemed out of place, and I'm not sure if it was the lineup rotations with the injuries. I'm not sure if it's Jalen Tyson coming on so well and having to thin out the rotation a little bit more. Just the turnover with adding Ball into the lineup and not having Struce there.
Yeah.
There's no Ty Jerome, but yeah, it's something definitely seemed off.
It seemed off with him mentally. His vibe seemed off, but also like he just doesn't fit Atkinson's offense, which is ball movement, and like he's not that type of player. He's an isolation type player, and he has his place. But yeah, he was just a square peg in a round hole. Like it just didn't make
The
sense here.
second deal that was made was actually the third of the 3 deals. We're gonna talk about the second one as the primary focal point here. But Lonzo Ball, who was just acquired this past offseason, was shipped with 2 seconds to Utah in a 3-team deal. Atlanta was the 3rd team. They get Jock Landale from Utah.
Hmm.
Utah acquires Ball and 2 future seconds from Cleveland, and the Cavs essentially get to shed Lonzo's salary
Right.
at this particular point. So where do you think this one fit into the grand scheme?
Well, I would. This was one I pretty much saw coming, and it's the same thing where I tried to hang on with him. I tried to hang on. I tried to hang on because I was impressed with him at the beginning of the year. Like I was like I thought he looked more mobile than I expected him to be. And then really surprisingly, he didn't have an injury like all year. I mean, he was available. Um, and it's just, I was like, man, we just need him to hit open shots. And if that's the case, well, then maybe it's worth hanging on and seeing if he can find that touch, because he actually, for his career, is a good 3-point shooter. And I don't know. I tried to understand maybe if it's something with the knees that has affected his, motion. But I think the writing was on the wall. I mean, like at the beginning of January, I was thinking, they'll take this up to the deadline to see if they can see him shoot his way out of it. But if he's not making shots, there's no reason to keep him. So I saw them moving him because it was an easy way to shed, 10 million, and actually like trading Okoro for him in the first place was a financially motivated move. I am a little surprised that they had to attach draft pick compensation. Uh, I'm not sure exactly how all that works, honestly, because I would have thought that they could have just cut him. Like, but I don't know. I'm missing something there. But yeah, I was a little surprised they had attached picks, but those are obviously not very important at this stage.
What was more surprising to you in the Lonzo deal as opposed to the Hunter deal, which we all know that they got pieces back? The fact that they moved Ball to Utah to shed salary, or they didn't actually try to move him to Charlotte like a lot of people were talking about, pair him up with his brother, and maybe get an end piece back.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I figure if they wanted something back, I don't know. I doubt many teams were offering it. Even Charlotte, I don't think anybody was really offering anything for Ball. Um, and now, I mean, I believe Utah is going to cut Lonzo. I don't think they're keeping him. So
Yeah,
Lonzo can
I
find his
think
way
that was
back to
reported
Charlotte.
earlier today that he'll be cut by the weekend.
Yeah. So if Lonzo even has a place in the NBA, I would assume maybe he would, catch on with Charlotte. But yeah, he might be at the end of the line.
Speaking of the end of the line, in terms of at least the trades, now let's get into the heavy hitter.
Mm-hmm.
The one that shook up the NBA. We heard about Giannis possibly getting moved. That didn't happen. We saw the Porzingis move basically shut him out of going to the Warriors, where Draymond Green's name came up. We
Mm-hmm.
saw the Jaren Jackson move, but nobody really heard about the James Harden and Darius Garland move until really about 3 or 4 days before the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
So the move is Darius Garland and a future second to the Los Angeles Clippers for 36-year-old former MVP James Harden.
It's a
Patrick,
whopper. Yeah,
your thoughts?
it's incredible. I mean, when I first heard it, I hated it. That was my first response. Was I hated it. It just didn't make sense to me at first. Um, I mean, because again, you're talking. I mean, it's the age right on the surface of it. You have a 26-year-old, but he just turned 26. Year old, two-time All-Star point guard. When Garland was on the floor last year, we tied the highest offensive rating of all time. Uh, and I think overall we set a record for efficient field goal percentage. He was the engine for all of that. Obviously Mitchell plays a huge role, but I mean when Garland was out, I mean you could see that he was just as important as Mobley and Mitchell. Um, I didn't. I mean, and I've always just liked Garland, and Garland likes Cleveland, and I mean he's just a lovable guy. He's like a big kid, and I love watching him play. He helped us play with pace. People really underestimate how good he actually is, and can't not pick at his defense and his defects and everything. And really, he's not even a bad defender. He's just small. He's just a small guy. Like there's only so much you can do. But that said, you know, him being paired with Mitchell, the discussion about the size hasn't gone away. And I don't know how much truth there is to it. But, like there was talk that Mitchell and Garland both kind of were starting to realize like that this might not work. Like that they could win games, but can they win it all? And it's interesting because like at the end of last year, I remember Garland saying that he felt if he were healthy that they would have won. And I have to agree with him to a degree. I mean, everybody has OKC as number one and way ahead, but they snuck out of there against Indiana. They lucked out that Halliburton got hurt.
Yeah.
It went 7 games and Halliburton got hurt. I mean, OKC is not to me an established juggernaut. Like they act like they are, but I don't really buy it.
And remember, that game was correct me if I'm wrong, game 7 was single digits at
Oh, it was close.
halftime,
It was with
even without Halliburton.
4 or 5.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you have to figure when you're looking at it from the perspective of Garland being the member of the core four that a lot of people were thinking was going to get moved. It was, there were some people that were thinking Jared Allen, but they can't actually argue with the size, what he means to the team.
Hmm.
Sabrina Winters probably would have left the broadcast at
Yeah.
that point. Um, but with Garland, remember when it was Sexton and then Garland came along, is are they going to be able to play together? Then
Right.
Sexton gets moved, Donovan comes in. Is Garland going to be able to pair with Donovan?
Right.
Now we've got a different situation here because there's a lot of people talking that is Mitchell going to be able to work with Harden because they're two alphas and there's only one ball, but people also have to figure out that you know uh Harden doesn't play a whole lot of defense either, but he is 6'5". He's
Much
definitely got
bigger.
the extra
Yeah.
size. He's got the extra wingspan, and he's also one of the 3 or 4 best passers in basketball.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, on the surface, I didn't like it, but the more I thought about it, I started to accept the reasons for it. And the first reason is the CBA. I mean, like, you can't, nowadays, you're not going to see big threes and big fours anymore. Like, you can have two superstars, and then the rest are, like role players or veterans toward the end, like Harden or something. But you and a lot of people like the idea that when you have a young core, that they're going to stay together for 10 years, and that almost never works out that way. I mean, there's injuries and there's the contracts and guys want out or whatever. So my first feeling was, wow, they're really mortgaging their future here. Like, I mean, if you move Garland, but the truth is, we don't really know. And I mean, especially with Garland's injuries, the toes are the first type of injury that has made me concerned about him long term. Like, the other injuries were kind of like freak injuries, of him getting hit in the face and not being allowed to eat for a month. I
Yeah,
mean, that's probably not going to happen again, like, but the fact that he got the other toe injured, like, people think it's the same toe. It's not. He got the other toe injured just recently.
yeah.
And like, it's like, well, man, like, there may be something actually physically wrong with him there. But as a fan of him, I feel very much about him. I said, like I do for Mayfield, like, I hope he lights it up. Like, I'll follow him wherever he goes, and I hope he plays really well. And I also hope that someday he comes back. Like, I could also see that, like, down the line, like that Garland could come back because he really loved the city. But back,
'Cause
I'm sorry, you were talking about Harden, um, and that's where I've like started to really buy in, is like the size right away. I mean, that corrects so many issues. We now have a normal size backcourt. Both him and Mitchell are bulls. I mean, they're both so strong, and they're not going to get cheated. Um, and that's the thing too. Like, a lot of people think that Harden is a foul merchant, and I know, he, like, watching him, he's annoying, like, but he doesn't flop. Like, I mean, he forces contact, and he's very physical offensively too, which he's also like an exceptional post defender, like, because of his strength. But just the size alone, it's like, yeah, he's not known for his defense, but that's going to make a huge difference. You can't hunt. You can't really hunt out. I mean, are you going to hunt out Harden or Mitchell? Well, maybe occasionally, but not as an offensive plan of attack that, oh, we're going to single this one guy out and abandon what we usually do. People
right.
miss that. Like, with pick and roll, it's like, okay, yeah, you can go at him, but is it worth going at him at, while forfeiting your normal offense, and disrupting that rhythm? Well, with Garland, it probably is. With Mitchell, Mitchell can hold his own, and I'm sure Harden can hold his own. And I think that it'll be a weird fit. They're going to have to figure it out. at first, but I think they will. I don't think Harden's a selfish player. I mean, I think he's a selfish person, but I don't think he's a selfish player.
And we're gonna find that out real quick, tomorrow night, ironically enough, in
I
Sacramento.
know.
So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, how weird
L.A.
is
and
that?
L.A.
So
and
a
the Kings. Yeah, I know it's
couple
weird.
of quick numbers out there. We'll play a little this or that, and then we'll let everyone get to bed here because with the Cavs now kind of moving all these pieces around. According to FanDuel, they jumped from plus 800 to plus 300 as the favorites to win the East. They have now eclipsed Detroit despite sitting fifth in the conference. According to DraftKings, they moved from a 22 to 1 to a 12 to 1 favorite to win the whole thing within 24 hours of the deal. And then all the moves allow them to shed 100 million in luxury tax payments, and it puts them only 3.9 million above the second apron going into the offseason, where Kobe Altman said he does not want to sacrifice the future at the sake of the present. So I got to actually commend him a little bit for that. Stay at your second apron, but now you got a lot more flexibility to be able to move some things around if you have to in the offseason.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't go under. I was very surprised by that. I thought that, well, why did they move ball and make all these moves? Like, it doesn't seem in their nature to just shed money because, Dan's always willing to spend. Although I think, like, once you're in the second apron, I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have. Nobody wants to spend $5 on the dollar. Like,
Right.
nobody wants to spend that much. But you're right, though. Like, I think it shows some restraint that they could have forced their way under, but instead said, we love where the roster is right now. We have a way out of the second apron if we want out. And really, I think the only penalty is I think the 2033 first rounder is frozen. I think that's
Correct.
the only penalty, actually, at this point, unless they stay in it another year.
Right. So let's play a little this or that. So Mike submitted a couple of questions. We'll give a couple of options here. I'd like to get your take on these. So the first one would be this or that, kind of stealing it from the old you don't know Jack
Yeah.
game. So which deal needed to be made more, Garland or Hunter?
Mm. Oh, gosh. Garland. Garland, I think. And I wouldn't have said that before. Before the deadline, I would have said Hunter for sure. Hunter was on my chopping block. I was like, I could see that trade having to happen. But Garland, I think, because of the money, because of the urgency, um, the threat of Mitchell not committing again is back up. It's already back up again. Like, we have to prove that we can get to the top of the mountain, or he might leave. So I think Garland, because like I said, the money, they can't have 40 million a year invested in somebody they don't know is going to be available.
Second question, bigger concern coming out of that deal, Harden now actually being a second alpha to Donovan Mitchell, or the fact that whereas Garland's not available for the playoffs, Harden a lot of the times disappears in the playoffs.
So wait, what's the this or that?
Which one is more concerning for you? Harden failing to show up in the playoffs, or staying the course, not making a
Oh,
deal, and dealing with the
yeah. I
possibility of,
I, I
of
think
Garland not being available?
Yeah, the non-availability. Yeah, yeah. I mean, imagine if that were to happen again. Like, if he were injured at all in the postseason, the panic that would immediately set in, the immediate feeling of, here we go again, and you can't win without him. Like, you can't. Everybody would mail it in. I think that Harden at this stage has a little less pressure on his shoulders. I mean, it's Mitchell's team. It's not Harden's team. So I think I think sometimes that's a good thing. Now he has the experience, and maybe he finally puts it together. You know.
Third question, and then a bonus one that Mike just wanted to throw in to be an ass.
Okay.
Um, but the third question, as being a former Clevelander as well, and everything that we've actually seen with some of the other sports teams in this town in the last week as well, which move did you hate at the beginning, and a lot of people are starting to come around on? the Harden move with his history or the Todd Monken hiring?
Oh, that I
Because there's a
hated and then
lot of people now starting to jump on the Monken bandwagon.
I I would say I initially hated the Harden thing more. Uh but yeah, because with coaches in the NFL, it's like we don't really know. We don't really know if it's going to work out. We wait until it, doesn't work out, and then we hate him. And yeah, Munkin was like an unflashy hire. Um, but I wasn't so high. I wasn't so high on Udinsky or whatever. I wasn't so high on hiring a 30-year-old. Like I don't see it. I'm sorry, I don't. Um, so I mean, yeah, like, and then you hear Monken talk, and it's like, yeah, like I think this is kind of the right guy. But I didn't like the field so much, like the guys we were attached to, even Schwartz. Like I didn't really love as head coach in the modern NFL. So I accepted Monken pretty quickly. This one took me a minute. I had to really think about it. Now that it happened, it's like this is kind of exciting. So
Last one, and I apologize for Mike.
Mike,
Um, will it be the east side or the west side that Harden is going to bankroll the local strip clubs like he did in Houston to where they retire his jersey?
East Side. All day, East Side. Come on. Oh man, yeah.
Michael, when you watch this on Sunday, why did you throw that in there?
I saw somebody like put the Diamond Club up in the
Yep.
yeah, as the new banner like up there.
Yeah.
Oh my
The
god,
marquee
the big
outside the front
stripping
door.
pole. Yeah,
Yep. So,
yeah.
Patrick, where can we find you? What's going on with you?
Well, I mean, yeah, we still have the Cleveland Sports Report going. But right now I have to reactivate the domains. So it's just the clevelandsportsreport.wordpress.com. And we did have last year by far our best year. Like I am really getting a lot of traffic. And if I wanted to go for the numbers, like I could have done a lot better. But me and my buddy Brian, actually, he does a lot of podcasts, and we're going to try and get a Cleveland Sports Report podcast going. So
Great.
basically, where you guys have helped me get on camera a little bit, but yeah, we want to do like more video content and stuff. So that would be the direction we're expanding that, and I'm back acting again. The show is Straight White Men. It is at PACA, which is Performing Artists Collective Alliance in Erie, Pennsylvania. And yeah, if you want to come, it's a great show.
And just to clarify, if anyone actually follows Patrick online on his socials, yes, he is getting more attractive.
Oh, that's right. You're damn right.
You
Thanks,
told me
Jim.
about the show before we actually started recording. It sounds very interesting. Unfortunately, probably with the run that you have and the weather in this part of the country, I'm not going to get out there, but I would
That's all right.
certainly love to. Like, if somebody does a video recording of it, I would absolutely recommend it because this sounds like it hits a little close to home, and those are typically the best types of roles.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it, Jim.
Absolutely, Patrick. We will certainly have you on again. We'd like to get you on again right before the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, with this new format that we have, you can jump on anytime you want. I know we went way over what we were talking about, but it was just too good to pass up. So, we very, very much appreciate the time. When you guys are ready to start your podcast, any questions you guys might have, Mike and I will be more than happy to help you out. The platform we're using right now, Zencaster. I think I'm going to be doing a live read for them after you and I click off. I
Mhm.
would certainly recommend them,
Okay.
and then just be able to edit the software from there afterwards. But Patrick, go get yourself some rest. It's been a very long night,
Yeah.
and let's settle in for Harden game one tomorrow night in Sacramento, and then the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Yep. Can't wait. Who you got for the Super Bowl?
I'm like in Seattle, and I'm thinking it's gonna get a little ugly.
I think Seattle. Yeah. Seattle by 6.
I got them by two, maybe three scores.
Oh, really? Okay.
I think the luck runs out. I think they're
Mhm.
just too good. New England doesn't have that lightning in a bottle when they're a
Yeah.
massive underdog like they did back in 2001.
Probably not. Good night, Jim. Take care.
Good night, everybody.
Would you shut up and just push the button already?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
It's the YZ Translator on the Wise Guys Sports Show.
I'm forever unclean.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is time once again for the YZ Translator. It is the best segment of the night because it is the last segment of the night. It is that time when James and I give each other names inside and outside of the sports world, and we think of the first thing that pops into our head, and we give it to you. Have we figured out the Chronicle yet, James?
That I'm off work the next couple of days from when we're taping this. I will have a resolution of that in some capacity by the time we come to you guys next Sunday night or when that next show gets uploaded.
Okay, but in lieu of the Chronicle, I always go over some of our favorites over the time of the translator itself. Personally, I still go back to the first one. When my co-host looked us in the face at our first or second annual live draft react and said, stick that in the YZ Translator, Sanika Wallace. And Alex and I were just looking at him like, did you really just say that? And he had, of course. So it is incumbent upon me as I wheeze into the phone, or into the microphone, I do apologize, to give you, James, the first name of the night. And we're going to go here. We are going with the grandchild of Dick Hammer, Seattle Seahawks quarterback Sam Darnold.
For every Marshawn and every member of that Legion of Boom who came up short because Pete Carroll was still calling games, from 1964 by throwing on the 1 yard line. He's basically going to wash all of that away. He's going to be able to get them their championship, and he is going to be your Super Bowl MVP by the time we go to bed on Sunday night. He will have basically eclipsed everybody else, even if he turns out to be nothing better than Eli Manning. He will have eclipsed everybody else there for the time being because he not only got there when none of them else did, he will have closed the show.
I agree. Speaking of Marshawn Lynch, and we're not going to go into it because we want to make the translator a nice, easy thing. You need to watch Bill Maher's podcast when he had Marshawn on. I'm giving you nothing else other than there was a lot of weed involved.
I will do that, and I will counter that with you need to watch the video that I suggested to you of Jason and Kylie Kelsey learning curling at the Olympic trials 2 weeks ago.
I've already seen it.
That was fast. I only told you about that yesterday.
I had seen it before because they brought up the fact that Kylie's got a great ass.
And it was also mentioned on their podcast. And also, did you happen to see they talked to George Clooney this week?
That was a few weeks ago.
Okay.
And the best was the way Clooney opened the show. Jason, I dig you, man. Travis, you killed me. Wonderful. Because, by the way, this week's episode of Not Gonna Lie details what happened in the last episode of New Heights when Travis broke one of Taylor's kitchen chairs.
EC Dub, EC Dub, EC Dub.
And he said, my name is Travis Kelsey, and I'm not going to lie. I broke Taylor's chair because of all the sourdough I ate.
And that's where I think the conversation with the clip that I saw about how do you get yourself out of an argument, and the conversation slid to that George has never had an argument with his wife for that period, and they're trying to give Travis notes.
Yes, I think Jason needs to give Travis all the notes.
Michael, speaking of notes to read and popular anecdotes that come out of it, I was going to give you this last week. We mentioned it. It's the perfect time as we actually are just having a bunch of fun tonight. Michael, your name in the YZ Translator is our new favorite reporter. You know her, you love her, Everyone cannot get enough of her. Carissa Codell.
Baby got back.
If Sabrina Carpenter had a bakery,
Exactly.
who put Barbie's head on a refrigerator?
Someone tell her the Bengals need an O-line.
And yet she puts out a video a couple of days ago of her gym routine, and then she's squatting her co-host in the studio in sweats.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the type that'll send you to Valhalla.
I just love the fact that she can go from Southern Belle, Midwestern Southern Belle type, and then flip on that reporter voice just like that, so buttery smooth, and then just starts laughing with some of these tweets with her idiot, producers behind her, egging her on with the graphics. Jigglypuff, the mom from Shrek, the Ursula from Little Mermaid, and and just you're done. You're completely done.
Exactly. She's hilarious, first of all. And second of all, leave her alone. Leave her alone.
Keep going with them because she loves them. They're
Oh no,
funny
I'm
as
talking about people
hell.
who are mean. She's
Yeah,
hilarious.
yeah. It's funny because I also love how she's dropping you know, coming up at 5, the story about your mother. Stuff like that she's starting to drop in
You
on the
know,
mean ones.
you know who we need to see? We need to see the weatherman who puts the music lyrics in do a friggin' broadcast with her.
That I'd be down for that. It's,
Same.
remember when we used to have Battle of the Network Stars? We need to have a battle of the greatest, uh, greatest outlandish reporters from across the country.
Amen.